Standardized fee schedule concepts, I didn't talk a lot about these in the morning session, but again, I'm trying to be careful to be fair to both. Standardized fee schedules are very successful compensation architecture in certain environments, as are capitation environments. They're both good, and they're both bad. What makes them good or bad is when and where they're applied. One of the things about standard fee schedules, one of the issues about them, is that when you standardize fees, you're always up against competing pressures, and I call it the accuracy versus simplicity issue. A standard fee that is extremely accurate in that it would fit perfectly for 10,000 different people is probably going to be so complex that you can't implement it. And I've seen them. I've seen them. A wonderful, wonderful system. It's just too complex. We can't implement it. In fact, one time I was speaking at a conference very much like this one in Chicago, and a bunch of us speakers were having dinner together because none of us knew anybody. None of us knew anyone else. And so we were sitting at dinner, and this gentleman was sitting next to me, and he goes, he said, you're a rate guy, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I'm a bean counter. And he goes, what do you think of this rate system? And he sketched out a rate system on the napkin. And he said, what do you think of it? And I said, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And he said, so you think it's good? And I said, no, it's horrible. It'll never work. And he said, why? And I said, it's too complex. It's very, very accurate. But you hand this to a state government or a county government, they're not going to be able to operate it. And he goes, that's exactly what we said. It turns out that he represented a consortium of county governments that this rate system was being given to. And he was just hoping someone would agree with him. But whenever you do standardized rates, you really want to find that point where you have the accuracy that you want, but it's not so complex that you can't implement it or that the providers can't use it. Like if you wanted to be really, really accurate, you could create a rate system that's paid out at 15-minute increments. Do y'all want to walk around with a stopwatch? So there you have it. And then also standardized fee schedules, there's implementation strategies. If you've been in a negotiated rate environment for years and years, like we were 25 years, and you implement a standard fee schedule, it's not going to, you can't do it in 1 year because you'll have people all over the map. Some of them you implement a standard fee and they're rich overnight, and others they're bankrupt overnight because they have the same service but their rates are so different. So even though standard fee schedules work really well, they're not that easy to implement. There's a lot of implementation considerations that have to be considered.